Hello, my name's John Otwell. Some of you may know me from Facebook or from YouTube. I was diagnosed with MS in the year 2014. Today, I'd like to share some of my testimony. When I was 40, I picked up a battery in my yard, and there was two of them, and it scared me. I had double vision, so I made an appointment with the optometrist and my medical doctor that day. I went to the optometrist. She smiled and laughed and said, "I think I know what's wrong with you, but I need to check your eyes first." She did. After the examination, she got a smirky grin on her face, crossed her legs, slid back, and said, "You need glasses, and not only do you need glasses, you need bifocals." I thought I just had bad eyes. So I went on for, I guess, 6 years and never had a bad relapse or had anything wrong. And then in 2016, I was closing down my business, going through a lot of stress, and noticed that I was bumping into the wall and my balance was kind of off. So then I was laying in bed about 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I want to say in April of 2016. I started reading about strokes and thought maybe I'd had a stroke. So I went to the VA medical hospital. I'm a veteran, as you can see. And they said, "What's wrong, Mr. Owl?" And I said, "I believe I've had a stroke." And they did all these preliminary tests, had me smile and stuff, and sent me upstairs for an MRI. I'm a Christian, and I wasn't scared. And I knew there was a purpose and a plan. And I got sent downstairs from the MRI. I was there 7 hours total. There were 5 hours or five doctors around my bedside, and then four of them left, and one remained. And she said, "Mr. Alwell," she was a young female doctor. She said, "I have good news." And I said, "What's that?" She said, "Well, you haven't had a stroke." And I said, "That is good news, but there's something wrong with me." She said, "Yeah, we think, now we only think, don't get excited, that you may have MS." And I said, "Well, that's some pretty bad news. Do you have any good news for me?" She said, "Well, you're still going to live a long time, but when you experience an exacerbation, it's really going to knock you down. An exacerbation is like a relapse." And I said, "What is an exacerbation like?" She said, "Kind of like what you're having right now." And I thought, well, if this is as bad as it gets, I can deal with this. And so I went and got in the truck and drove home. And my wife, I was sitting on the sunroom, and she said, "You're happy, aren't you?" And let me tell you, people, I'd been misdiagnosed for 15 years. And I'd go to the emergency room, and they'd be like, "There's nothing wrong with him. We can find nothing wrong with him." And when she said, "I'm happy," I was. And I said to her, my exact words were, "You damn right I'm happy." I said, "I was going to have them put on my tombstone, 'I told you that I was sick.'" So in the next year and a half, I just experienced a lot of fatigue, weakness. I just kept getting worse and worse. And within a year and a half, I lost the ability to walk. Now, first on the protocol, okay, let's change gears. Let's go to the protocol. So after a year and a half, I was getting worse and worse. I actually called my sister in law and I said, "Lynn, I want to die." I said, "I'm not suicidal, but I feel so bad. I would really rather die and have my suffering stop." And so then a few months later, I don't know, I think I found out through Chrissy All somehow being on another page on Facebook, and she told me about the Coimbra Protocol and the success rate. It had a very high success rate. It was over 90% documented and done by Cicero Coimbra in South America, in Sao Paulo. And I'm like, oh, come on. If this was real, then why don't my doctors know about it? Why are there only 6 doctors in the United States? Come on. I mean, get real. And she's like, it isn't profitable to get well. I don't know if she said that or I figured that out myself. I spend about $1,000 a year doing the protocol. My medicine that I was taking at the VA was 40 to 50. That's what they were billing the insurance company, I'm sure. $40 to $50,000 a year, or that was a month. So that's $600,000 a year. So in April of 2017, a year later, year and a half later, probably more than that, I started doing the Coimbra Protocol. Within 31 days. Now, when I started, I was laying in the MRI tube, and I had to have help getting up on the table. I couldn't even stand up. My balance was terrible. Now, I could still stand, but my balance was terrible. I couldn't walk. And so I had to have help getting on the MRI. And as I was laying there, the thought went through my mind, how do you know that you haven't been born for such a time as this? Well, that is in the book of Esther in the Old Testament in the Bible. And I know what it means, and it brought me great comfort. But I didn't know what it meant. I mean, I didn't truly think anything miraculous or anything, about it. I took the MRI. I had lesions at the base of my brain, some in my brain, and my wife wheeled me out in the wheelchair, and I was so distraught and so sad. Sad was a good way of putting it. I began doing the protocol, and immediately, within 3 days, I knew something different seemed to be happening. Within 31 days, I regained the ability to walk back. Now, fatigue was a constant friend. I mean, I was tired for 2 years. But I knew within 31 days that something was happening. Now, it took me, because by the time I was diagnosed with MS, my MS had already wreaked havoc in my central nervous system and my brain. So it took me a long while to recover. And on the protocol, people can go 6 or 9 months or a year and be better than I was. Because, see, my case was bad. I mean, when I got diagnosed and I came home and was taking the medicine, I had spasms, incontinence, memory fog, memory loss. I snorted, I choked. Man, itches. I used to itch my scalp until it bled. Itchiness throughout my body. Something I still do. I still snort. I had a finger that would shake so badly that it just drove me nuts. I had this thing with my ear. This was one of the worst things I had. I had a spasm in my eardrum. And this is what I compare it to. It was like a moth flew in your ear and got stuck. And it would just flutter. And it drove me nuts. I have regained much. My mind came back, my speech. I used to talk like I was drunk. I used to cry. I was talking to somebody yesterday about, heck, I used to watch stuff on TV and just bawl like a baby. And my wife would come in the room and say, "What are you crying about?" I'd be like, "Oh, you do," and I'd just cry. And that I had a lot of symptoms from, excuse me, from the MS, stereotypical symptoms. And that's why it took so long for me to be diagnosed, is that the symptoms that I was having, yes, they were typical symptoms of MS, but MS many times is not diagnosed because you need more than one symptom. Well, I'd go in with, numbness, and that would be my only symptom. And, when you go in with numbness and drop foot and, you know, these different symptoms, then they're able to put them together and say, oh, well, you have MS. But see, until you have a spinal tap or an MRI, it's not uncommon for you not to be diagnosed, for it to be diagnosed with something. There's a ton of stuff out there that can cause the doctors to diagnose you with something else, and it be MS. Now, this is one thing I must say. I'm not a doctor, nor do I claim to be. I'm only sharing what my history is. If you're thinking about doing the Coimbra protocol, you should see a trained doctor. With anything medical, you should see a trained doctor. All right. So I started doing the protocol. 31 days in, I wanted to run to the front porch and scream, my God, it works. I felt so good. And that is, Denise Meadows, who will be active on this page too, who I shared the protocol with, and she said something sharing her testimony the other day that she wished she felt this good 20 years ago. I'm the same way. I told my doctor's assistant a couple of weeks ago, I said, I want you to go tell the doctor this when you see him. Tell him I feel so good that there are days that literally I can't wait for my eyes to open up so I can tell people about this and about how good you can feel. I said, he doesn't hear that. MS doctors do not hear that. You know, I was given no hope. When I was diagnosed, I was told your biggest hope is that your disease does not progress, which is typically MS progresses, that your disease doesn't progress or it progresses slowly. Like I said, within a year and a half, I was in a wheelchair. And I want to scare people that have been diagnosed with MS. Why? Because I don't want them to be in a wheelchair. I don't want them in 3 or 4 years to be in a wheelchair, or 5 or 10 or whenever. I want them to, if they can walk, I want them to stay walking. I want them to stop the disease. My disease, at about 2 years and 8 months, I could tell. Everything went away with the disease. I mean, the fatigue, the talking, mostly the memory, all came back. And did I get everything back? No. I'm in a chair right now recording this video. I ride a bike right now that gives me functional electronic stimulation to my nerves and muscles so that I can hopefully regain the ability to walk again. But I'm glad for what I have. when you get diagnosed, I tell people all the time, MS is worse than ALS. And people will argue with me and say, my God, what are you talking about? ALS will kill you in 3 or 4 years a lot of times. And I'm like, that's correct. Your suffering is over. But with MS, you can lay in a bed like an old piece of fruit for years, lose the ability to move your hands, your arms, to talk, to eat. I mean, MS can wreak havoc on your nerves and your central nervous system. And so it can debilitate you and incapacitate you where you can't do anything. You end up in a nursing home laying in a bed. And I don't have that outlook now. I still do the protocol. I've reduced my D a little bit because I take high doses of vitamin D. But I do it under doctor's supervision because if you take high doses of vitamin D, you can hurt yourself. You can build up calcium in your bloodstream. So you always have to be monitoring it and working with a doctor. Sorry. So I'm going to do an MS page. I'm going to try to go on here at first every few days. Could end up being every day so that you can have encouragement. I'm always available to talk to right now. I talk to people throughout the world. When I got better, I knew that I had to share with people about this because at first, I wanted to walk my daughter down the aisle, and then I thought, man, I can't even walk, so I'm not going to walk her down the aisle. She was 12 at the time. Then I started getting worse and worse and worse, and I thought, forget walking her down the aisle. I hope I can see her get married, but I don't think I'm going to be alive. Within a few months after getting diagnosed, I thought, I'm going to be dead in about 3 weeks. I really believe that. And I was getting my affairs in order. And then I got better. But I felt really, really bad. My biggest symptom was fatigue, without a doubt. I mean, I have lasting symptoms. I have numbness in one leg and drop foot in it. The other leg is fine. I have numbness in my hands. That was one of my first symptoms. And it persists. So I have things that, have persisted. But I know people that have gotten back 99% of what they've lost. And they have no lasting effects from the disease. And they're going on to live normal lives, which is what we all want. I mean, we all want to walk. We all want to live normal lives. But the fact of the matter is, there's going to be people, and I've dealt with them, that come along, they're in a wheelchair and they're not going to get out. And my heart breaks for them. But there are people out there that don't have to get to that point. There are people at every stage of this disease. What are you going to get back from the Coimbra Protocol? I don't know. We never know. But the Coimbra Protocol is proven, and you can look at the MRIs and you can read the literature. It's proven to stop your disease. And like I said, people, I feel better today than I did when I had all my faculties. I mean, there are mornings I literally wake up and I can't wait for my eyes to come open because I feel good. I feel good every day. And I want everybody to feel like I feel. So, like I said, we have a channel now. Read it or, subscribe and every day I'll put something on there. The Coimbra Protocol is also for autoimmune diseases. Of which there are over 100 autoimmune diseases now, and the protocol can help all of them. They've had great success with other things that were labeled autoimmune. And real quick, what the protocol does is it gives you mass amounts of vitamin D, which lowers, you can read about this, it lowers your PTH, parathyroid hormone. We know by the parathyroid, which doesn't do anything, which when it lowers, the vitamin D causes it to lower. So we know the absorption of the body, the body's absorption of the vitamin D by the PTH going down. The PTH is kind of a telltale sign. My PTH starting out was 43. Now it is much, much lower, which shows the vitamin D working, which, fights off the disease. So in a nutshell, that's what the protocol does. Like I said, if you have any questions, if you come on here, I get notices and stuff that, so and so has asked you a question. I haven't figured out yet, but I probably will eventually. A quick way of responding. The best way to right now send me questions is through Facebook Messenger. My name is John Ottwell, Ottwell. I'm always available. Denise Meadows, who I told about the protocol, will also be doing this page with me. I hope to upload an interview with her before long. We will do an interview right now every Saturday. I have to figure out how to upload Zoom. But I'm going to do an interview every Saturday, and it may end up being Wednesday, Saturday, or something like that. We'll see. But have hope. I had none, zero, zilch, nada. When I got diagnosed, all I knew about MS was there was an M in front of it, and I didn't want it. That was the only things that I knew about it. I was very fortunate that I never knew somebody with an advanced case of MS. Since, getting it and doing the protocol and everything, I've personally met people that have advanced cases of MS. And I see what MS can do if it advances. It's terrible. It's a terrible disease. But there is hope now, no matter what stage you are, at stopping the progression of the disease. Well, is the Coimbra Protocol a cure for MS? No. But it will halt the progression of disease. It has a high rate of effectiveness. There's been a few people, and it breaks my heart, I want to say this, that it hasn't worked for 100%. Has it helped them? Yes. Has it stopped their disease? No. But for the majority of people, the Coimbra Protocol does. And there is a testimonial page on the Coimbra Protocol. Look it up. And like I said, contact me through, right now it'd be through Facebook Messenger. And I will answer any questions you have. All right. Take a lot. Or thanks a lot. And God bless you all.